Hey guys, I'm S.Dan Wolf. Welcome back to the channel. As always, the ever-evolving Wilderness Springs is evolving some more. And I think with kind of being on the heels with the new DLC that's coming, they're going to tease more of that this coming up week. They said we'll know more on the 9th. And I wanted to just kind of start tweaking some things. I brought in my little, like a smaller version of the Islands of Adventure Tower. I just thought it kind of, I thought it looked really cool, kind of giving that, almost like gives us just Wilderness Springs entrance area more of a theme park vibe. And I also think it differentiates itself from the Wilderness Outfitters. Now it kind of, you know, it's just got its own little vibe here at the entrance now. And one big thing you may notice back here as well, if prepping for DLC, we're going to totally redo Enchanted Forest. I've not really liked this side of the layout. The little coaster was cool and the trees were cool, but I just think we can do something better. I think that we can kind of reimagine Enchanted Forest better. I think we could tell a better story, probably get more rides in there than I had before. So that is, just look at that as DLC prep. Still, I've got this little spot open right here. That is for Mineral's imagination. If he comes up with anything or has any ideas that spark, I wanted to leave that open right now for him. And the next biggest thing that, as far as Wilderness Springs goes, the biggest decision that I've made lately is the decision to turn Legend of Thunder Falls. I think this is one thing that's aggravated me about the Legend of Thunder Falls and the way that it sat was it almost like it kind of cut itself off with Timberwolf's Revenge. I've never liked how after I started that, because remember the water ride went straight north and south like this, and it just butted right up against Timberwolf's Revenge. And I just think with it turned slightly like this, it is going to give the Legend of Thunder Falls like its own little moment. I think it's going to have a very cool sight line, kind of, you know, now as you're coming up to the ride, making your way over across to the queue and the loading station. But yeah, that is another really big development decision as far as Wilderness Springs goes. We have turned Legend of Thunder Falls, and I got rid of the Crockett's breakfast camp for now. And I think it would be cool to kind of do like some kind of little backstory that leads up to, you know, Legend of Thunder Falls. Probably do a better sign, a larger sign out here. And could even, I was thinking the story for this little area could be more like the ride is, to where this is base camp out here. So it could even serve as like a little park, maybe a little walkway area, and you could see the camp supplies and maybe a vehicle or two. But yeah, so that is, I just think even from the air, this looks so much better than straight up and down, basically jamming into Timberwolf Revenge's station. So yeah, that is kind of what I'm working on. And then of course back here is kind of like what was originally going to be an indoor area, kind of opted to just do you know, an outdoor side. Could even eventually shorten this a little bit and bring it kind of all over here into this corner. So if we ever wanted to develop over here, you know, that would be an option too, kind of behind Outpost 87. But as far as right now goes, I kind of like that waterway right there. I like how it just kind of breaks up the land a little bit, you know, kind of makes it where you don't have to have something covering, like an attraction covering every single square inch. Kind of lets, and it also separates the two lands a little bit, you know, because I guess technically Legend of Thunder Falls and Timberwolf's Revenge don't really have a land per se, you know? They're kind of just, maybe we can look at them as like two older attractions that have just always been there. Because, you know, Grizzly Valley kind of encompasses, you know, Grizzly Peak Mine, you know, Grizzly Peak Expedition here. So it encompasses that as well as, you know, Grizzly Manor, and then your little helter-skelter little slide ride over there. So this land, it's cut off at both of the train stations. So all of this little area is Grizzly Valley. And then, of course, right here, Enchanted Forest. But back here, you know, once you get into, you know, besides Outpost 87, this is just kind of like open land back here. So, I don't know. I just definitely think that looks better, a little more turned on that angle. And then, you know, another thing too that I had kind of teased with, you know, just in my mind, with this big open spot back here is, do we leave Barnstormer? You know, this is an incredible sightline piece by Yan that he put on his workshop a long time ago. This wasn't necessarily built for Wilderness Springs, but it fit right there so perfect. I've just always left it. So, you know, you guys have to let me know what you think about that. You know, there's always the option to, if we wanted to make the park more maybe like a hub and spoke design, where, you know, maybe Wilderness Outfitters might sit over here off to the side, kind of facing this angle, and this whole area right here could be lined with maybe an attraction or shops, restaurants, maybe make it, maybe, you know, like the spine of the park, of the main area of the park, goes up through here, and then you know, the paths lead off to different areas. The only problem with that idea, though, is you essentially really, well, you know, I guess you could adjust Enchanted Forest to be this little area, kind of like behind Main Street, and it all kind of caps off back here on this little ridge before you get to the manor. But, you know, like I said, there's just something about Barnstormer that sits really, really cool right there. And then, of course, too, you know, you could have the guests. You would have to maybe do some foliage work and rock work right here. Maybe get rid of one or two of these support beams and let the guests kind of walk under the little railroad track right there as they make their way kind of farther back into the park. Because, you know, one could argue right now the park is really chopped up. Like, if you're wanting to go over here and enjoy Enchanted Forest and kind of check out all this stuff, you've got to come back and walk all the way back around through Grizzly Valley up into the park. Whereas, you know, if the Main Street area come all the way up here, you know, we might be able to do some kind of walkway that kind of connects it closer up here. Of course, it's not a castle park, so you wouldn't necessarily, you know, have that weenie out there that you would kind of draw people to. But, you know, it still would be pretty cool. It's like when people walk into the park right here, there's a, you know, kind of like a long area of development and mystery, and, you know, that would kind of pull them back that way. And of course, the park it's not really set up to be like a Disney Main Street, really, because, you know, it's still, we want to stick with the Wilderness Outpost, you know, type vibe, where it's, you know, you're adventuring your way back through there. It's not really necessarily an organized Main Street type area. But yeah, you guys will have to let me know what you think about that. I think that when the DLC comes out, I'm going to be hitting this hard and heavy. I've got a lot of ideas that are kind of starting to pop in my head about Wilderness Springs. Every time you guys, like I said, every time you guys think this park is over, we delete a bunch of stuff and reimagine a bunch of it. So this is just kind of like the latest iteration. I want to get in here and rethink Enchanted Forest. I want to rethink the area that leads into the Legend of Thunder Falls. There's just, I don't know, there's a lot we could do. You know, I could even kind of bring these cliffs out this way more to kind of maybe hide Outpost 87, to make it, you know, where it doesn't all look like it's just all part of the same area. You know, we could possibly even get another flat ride back here or something. But yeah, that's just kind of like my latest thoughts. And of course, I know you guys will kind of let me know what you think. I guess the biggest shock to the park would come in the form of if we decided to get rid of Barnstormer and possibly the Ferris wheel, to trade it out for a larger Main Street area. You know, you could possibly fit some different flat rides in there. Probably would need some more foliage and rock work over here to kind of separate Grizzly Valley from the Main Street area. You know, you would obviously want to keep this path so people could exit Main Street over into Grizzly Valley if they were wanting to go that way. But yeah, that is the state of things right now. Kind of just in a little bit of a holding pattern, a little bit of a destructive pattern right now while we wait for the DLC to come out. And yeah, you guys will have to let me know what you think. I'm sorry I skipped Saturday at the Falls yesterday. I was kind of in here just, you know, getting some of this land ready and trying to just come up with some new ideas, and just didn't get a video filmed in time. But yeah, so this is how everything sits as of, what is the day? Today's the 7th. As of Sunday the 7th, this is your state of Wilderness Springs. So as always, it's expanding, trying new ideas. Thank you guys for all the support on the fall overlay. This is kind of back and it's more, you know, we actually build and expand the park more in its kind of like neutral summer, spring type vibes. But yeah, that was very fun to get in and try just kind of like our little fall overlay. Just crazy how different everything looks. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your all's feedback here and let me know what you're thinking about the springs and what direction can we go. And thank you guys. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video.